coast to the Rock on Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, a man accused of sexually assaulting a girl over several years in Rockland has now received his sentence.
Plus, we'll have local reactions to the ongoing trade war and how it's impacting the stock market.
And we'll also hear concerns about proposed funding cuts and how they could impact libraries around the state.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. We'll have all the day's news coming up over the next hour. But first, a check of that forecast. Looks like some wintry weather moving into our state once again today. Some folks may just receive maybe an inch or two of snow. Some could end up having several inches as the day rolls along today.
I know, especially right around Millinocket.
Yeah.
Here's Devin Biggs with that forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Happy Tuesday. The winter weather advisories have been expanded further down toward the south, and they will last until 4 a.m. as we head towards your Wednesday for measurable snowfall that will be on the way. Wind advisories also posted until midnight later on tonight for the areas highlighted here, and gale warnings and small craft advisories posted along the coast. No precipitation, at least just yet, but it is starting to push in from the south and west, so we'll start to see this build in throughout the morning period today, lasting throughout the daytime period in the parts of tonight, but backing off throughout the morning period tomorrow. Let's zoom things out. We have some precipitation off the coast now. We have more precipitation well off to the well off toward the west, excuse me, and we'll be watching for more of this to build in throughout the daytime period today. But Futurecast showing that snowfall moving in, possibly mixing with some rain at times. Again, the soak continues overnight, but backing off by early Wednesday morning. Gusty winds will be a thing at times today, maybe up to 15 miles per hour. Otherwise, 5 to 10 mile per hour sustained winds. The winds increase to 20 miles per hour tonight and maybe getting close to 30 miles per hour for the daytime period tomorrow. Otherwise, moving forward today, your hourly forecast for the morning and afternoon period showing that snow passing through with temperatures reaching for the 30s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Thank you, Devin. We'll have a look at that 5-day forecast a little later on. First up this morning, 3 people were injured following a crash in Newport yesterday. Emergency crews responded to a 2-vehicle crash yesterday morning at the intersection of Rossin Road and Elm Street. The Newport Police Department says 1 vehicle was exiting the Rossin Road, crossing Elm Street. The other vehicle was westbound on Elm and struck the vehicle crossing the road. Both vehicles rolled over. 3 people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
Scary crash. Well, meanwhile, a man from Rockland has received his sentence for sexually assaulting a young girl. 45-year-old Kyle Gott has been ordered to serve 5 years of a 10-year sentence. He was charged with gross sexual assault and unlawful sexual contact. According to the Midcoast Villager, Gott was accused of sexually assaulting the victim when she was 12 years old and continued for 8 years. The victim and her mother both testify that they think serving 5 years in prison is insufficient for the seriousness of the crimes he committed. Gott has also been ordered to not have contact with children under the age of 18 once he's released, and he must undergo sex abuse counseling.
Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey is suing the Trump administration for freezing funds that Frey says are used to feed children and vulnerable adults. The suit comes after a letter was received by the state on April 2nd from Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins. That letter announced the funding freeze and said it was due to the state's alleged violation of Title IX in educational programming. Frey says in her letter, Rollins threatened, quote, "This is only the beginning," but also said the freeze would not impact programs providing food to children. However, on April 3rd, the Child Nutrition Program of the Maine Department of Education was unable to access several sources of federal funding. Frey says the programs are necessary to feed children in schools, child care centers, and after-school programming, as well as vulnerable adults. He said, quote, "Under the banner of keeping children safe, the Trump administration is illegally withholding grant funds that go to keeping children fed. The president and his cabinet secretaries do not make the law, and they are not above the law. And this action is necessary to remind the president that Maine will not be bullied into violating the law." End quote. In the complaint, Attorney General Fry says the freeze was unlawful following no legally required procedure to alter congressionally appropriated funds.
Well, stock prices fell sharply again on Monday, and the Dow finishing down nearly 350 points after President Trump vowed over the weekend to not back off on his trade war. As Brad Rogers found, some Mainers put the blame squarely on the president, while others put their trust in President Trump.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other.
We don't have a whole lot of time for it to turn around, and it's dropping faster than it's going to come back.
Lena is reluctant to ask her husband about their 401k retirement account.
Because I don't want to know how far we're down.
Like many retirees, they count on their 401k to help pay the bills.
Sure, it's impacting us. Everything we do now is more expensive than when we came here. We're seniors on a fixed income.
I've decided I'm not going to panic and withdraw.
Dana Roberts says about 20% of his money is in a retirement account. He's leaving it in the hands of his fund manager.
They're probably staying up all night long trying to figure out how to protect the little bit of money that I do have there.
I think a good rule of thumb is to ride it out.
John Paradise, Senior VP at Town & Country Federal Credit Union, says people are concerned about the drop in the stock market.
I think everybody needs to take a deep breath and figure out kind of where they're headed and realize that everyone's financial journey is not a straight line. It's full of bumps, and for some people this is one of those bumps.
Well, it's tanking. We kind of pretty much knew it was going to happen anyway.
Jay Weaving is about 6 years from retiring, but he's trusting President Trump to turn this around.
It's going to go back up again, but I think in the long run it's going to work out as long as we can get some manufacturing back in this country.
Others, though, question the president's decision-making.
If he has a strategy, it's the wrong strategy, and I personally think he's half a bubble off. I don't think the man knows what he's doing.
And that was Brad Rogers reporting. Maine's House Republican leader is urging lawmakers to put a cap on the state's general assistance reimbursement that is paid out to municipalities. Representative Billy Bob Falkingham of Winter Harbor presented his bill to the Health and Human Services Committee on Monday. Falkingham is looking to cap the state's reimbursement to any single municipality to 50% of the total state funding allocated for general assistance in a fiscal year. He said the General Assistance Program was created to be equitable and effective. However, Falkingham said from 2019 to 2024, the city of Portland received 80% of the general assistance spending in Maine, which he says affects the sustainability of the program.
General assistance is a good program. It's for people that need it in times of hardship. It's able to be administered at the local level, so it's a very, very good program, and when it's used properly, it works. But it's getting abused, and we need to do something about that.
Falkingham says his bill, LD 1274, ensures state assistance is distributed more evenly across Maine's municipalities. He says it will also encourage those municipalities to explore other methods to assist residents in need, such as private donations, local initiatives, and collaboration with nonprofits.
Well, bills that could change the way Maine's constitutional officers are seated were also the subject of a public hearing in Augusta. Senator Joe Baldacci of Bangor and House Republican leader Billy Bob Falkingham presented multiple separate bills on the issue. Falkingham's bills aim to have these officers elected by popular vote, saying Maine is one of the few states in the nation where the Secretary of State, the State Treasurer, and Attorney General are appointed by the legislature. While this was the system in place in Maine and other states for many years, Falkingham said it no longer reflects the values of a modern democracy.
When our constitutional officers are directly elected by the people, they are directly accountable to the Maine voters. This will enhance the legitimacy of our state government as it reflects the will of the people. Direct elections allow Maine citizens to have a direct role in choosing who will represent them.
Hearings were also held for bills that seek to make the state auditor a constitutional officer and have the auditor elected by popular vote.
New building codes take effect in the state today that will impact you if you're planning to build or remodel. The updated Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code came about because of legislation passed in 2019. A statement sent from the Department of Public Safety says it will ensure that all buildings moving forward meet modern standards for structural integrity, energy efficiency, and indoor air quality. The biggest changes in the updated code are requirements for more insulation in floors and walls and more options to meet energy efficiency standards, which they say can be achieved through various weatherization and energy measures. They say better ventilation and radon protection measures will improve indoor air quality. Dan Burgess, director of the governor's energy office, says, quote, the updated codes will improve Maine's building stock to be more safe, comfortable, and efficient, reducing our energy consumption and delivering significant cost savings.
Community members and students spoke out in support of the Brewer High School Music Department last night as the school committee weighs potential cuts in the upcoming school year. The school committee was presented the initial budget proposal for the 2025-2026 year. Community members and students voiced concerns that the proposal suggested the school department would be cutting the number of music courses in half. But according to the superintendent of schools, Greg Palmer, they are not looking to eliminate any music programs. However, they are considering reducing sections of music courses that are seeing lower enrollment levels.
Now we're looking at, continuing to offer guitar and chorus will still be here. So we're not talking about eliminating the music program or anything like that. We're talking about reducing sections where we have reduced enrollment.
Lots of people enjoy choir. Even though we have a very small class, we're all very close to each other, and she cares about us a lot.
Well, we also spoke with the immediate past president of the Maine Music Educators Association, who says maintaining robust music programs in schools is not just about fostering future musicians. He says it's about ensuring students have access to a well-rounded education that nurtures their intellectual, emotional, and social development. Superintendent Palmer says they hope interest in those courses that they are considering reducing will go up, in which case they would respond appropriately in future budgets, perhaps restoring some of the funding for those programs. All the schools these days are dealing with that kind of question these days. Budgets are so tight, so they're trying to snip here and there, and it's a real hard thing to do. Nobody wants anything to go away, but paying for it is another issue.
Right, yeah, these arts budgets are usually the first thing to get snipped. Yeah. Either way, though, I think it's cool to see that the young people involved are there speaking up about the things that affect them. And we'll see that throughout the show on a couple different issues throughout our state today. So I find that really interesting and cool.
They're learning how things work as a result, too.
Yeah, and speaking up for themselves. Yeah. All right, the time now is 8:12. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, we'll hear how funding cuts proposed by President Trump could impact libraries around the state.
But first, another check of that weather forecast. A wintry day ahead. We could expect rain and snow, more snow in some places. Highs around 39 degrees. Mostly cloudy with snow showers overnight. Lows dropping down to the low 20s. Tomorrow, flurries in the morning. Otherwise, a partly cloudy day for Wednesday with highs near 41. We'll be right back.
Is your driveway in distress? Dirt yard dragging you down? Call Paramount Paving, Penobscot County's most trusted name in driveways. With more than 1,000 jobs installed and a 4.5 rating on Google, it's easy to see why. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount. Call today for your free estimate.
My dad got shoved by an employee at the nursing home and broke his hip. When I asked management about it, they tried to cover it up and said it was an accident.
If a serious injury has happened at a nursing home that's brought up cause for concern, call the 2s right now.
Our attorney at Lowry and Associates investigated and found out the truth. The nursing home had to take responsibility for what happened to my dad.
If you suspect nursing home abuse or neglect, we're your go-to lawyers.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
Is your driveway in distress? Dirt yard dragging you down? Call Paramount Paving, Penobscot County's most trusted name in driveways. With more than 1,000 jobs installed and a 4.5 rating on Google, it's easy to see why. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount. Call today for your free estimate.
You ready?
Hit it. We're gonna break some rules.
I want what's mine. This woman is trouble.
Bad boys for life.
I'm the cartel doctor.
Weren't you the cleaning lady?
I've changed.
We are going to find her. Nobody is better at this than we are. We're not playing around.
All new Cleaning Lady, followed by an all-new Alert MPU, tonight on Fox.
Maine's libraries are facing uncertainty after the Trump administration called for the reduction and potential dismantling of the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Our Callie Warren has more.
So we'll see what happens. A lot of it is just uncertainty at this point. We don't know exactly how it will affect us.
It's a turbulent time for Maine libraries. On March 14th, an executive order from the Trump administration called for the reduction of the Institute of Museum and Library Services, or IMLS, which provides federal funding to the Maine State Library. While many local libraries aren't directly federally funded, directors say they do rely on state library funding for some programs and amenities.
And that was the sole federal agency for libraries. The Maine State Library gets about $1.5 million in federal funding, and they use that to support a lot of statewide programs that we use, that almost every library in the state uses.
Library directors are concerned that they could lose what they say are vital services to their community, like Wi-Fi services and the interlibrary loan system.
It does help fund our fiber internet service as well as our interlibrary loan van, the book deliveries between libraries. If that were to be affected by the cuts in funding, it would directly impact what our community has access to.
The Maine Attorney General, along with 20 other state AGs, has sued the Trump administration for the IMLS reduction. According to State Librarian Lori Fisher, quote, Maine State Library continues to provide our normal services and resources to Maine residents as usual. We are awaiting further guidance from IMLS, unquote. Callie Warren reporting for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Meanwhile, a waste management facility in Hamden took an important operational step forward on Monday. For the first time in nearly 5 years, the Hamden Trash Plant, now known as Municipal Waste Solutions, received a delivery of solid waste. According to a spokesperson from the plant, it signifies the next step in waste solutions for the region. The facility is slated to serve over 100 communities in the area. The plant originally shut down back in May of 2020 because of financial issues, and it has changed hands multiple times before being taken over by Innovative Resource Recovery in 2023.
Eighth graders from across Maine gathered in Augusta yesterday for the state's 29th annual Girls' Day at the State House. As Jody Hersey tells us, this was an opportunity for these young ladies to see for themselves what it might be like to one day become a lawmaker in Maine.
100 eighth grade girls got to see firsthand what it is like to work as a lawmaker in Augusta as part of Girls' Day at the State House. It is hosted by the Maine Women's Lobby and the Maine Women's Education Fund.
All of these girls are doing a mock public hearing on a piece of legislation, a real piece of legislation sponsored by Senate President Maddie Daughtry that would start all of the high schools in Maine at a later start time at 8:30 a.m.
The students in attendance got the opportunity to have their voices heard in favor or against the proposed legislation.
My name is Lilith Every from Jefferson, and I am in opposition of this bill.
Surrey student Isana Oxman served on the mock committee, listening to the testimony of other students.
I don't know, I was really I couldn't decide where I stood on it.
While fellow mock committee member Ayanna John of Lewiston made a motion that was seconded for the bill to proceed.
Because I believe anything to make life sort of easier for this generation of teenagers would be essential, because this generation struggles a lot.
Participant Ainsley Clemens was thrilled to watch it all unfold.
So I'm really glad that we get the opportunity to do this because I really want to make a change.
Volunteers say that's exactly what Girls' Day at the State House is all about.
The goal here is for all of these young women to see themselves in these roles. We want them to see themselves as lawmakers. The State House complex is theirs. It belongs to Maine people.
In Augusta, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Boy, what a great program. It's one thing to learn about these things, how things work in the classroom, but to actually get out there and take part in these kinds of things, you know, it might impress a future leader. You never know.
Those are the things that are memorable to students and that really help them make those connections.
Yeah.
All right, the time now is 8:20. After the break, a significant rebound to end the day for tech stocks yesterday, but concerns still on the horizon for the auto industry.
All the latest business news coming up in our Fox Means Business segment ahead on Good Morning Maine.
American-made home goods, a locally owned gift shop offering only American-made items, manufactured right here in the USA. At AMHG Works, we have books written by Maine authors, jewelry, wall decor, puzzles, and many other Maine-themed items. Plus, a great selection of dog toys, treats, and accessories. Come check out everything we have to offer. We look forward to seeing you.
As a hybrid pioneer, followed by years of refinement, Toyota has earned praise for creating the most advanced and reliable hybrid system. Now with more hybrid all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive models than any other brand. Like the 2025 all-wheel drive Prius Hybrid with exceptional comfort and an up to 567-mile total driving range. So see your New England Toyota dealer, your hybrid all-wheel drive headquarters. Toyota, let's go places.
Your piece of land demands the very best equipment. Kubota equipment. The #1 selling compact tractor in the U.S. with professional grade mowers, versatile sidekick utility vehicles, and compact tractors that get it done right. All backed by unmatched dealer support. Talk to your dealer today to schedule a demo.
Available at Doors Equipment, 1468 Outer Hammond Street, Bangor.
Get moving this spring with comfortable, functional footwear from Comfort Shoes and More. From tailored fittings to shoe modifications and custom orthotics, their team of experts are trained in podorthics and will help you find the perfect fit. From running to walking, casual or dress, you'll find today's top brands: Hoka, Brooks, Keen, Ariat, Merrill, and more. Don't let your feet hold you back from doing the things you love. Take the drive to Newport for a sit and fit to find your perfect fit. You and your feet will be glad you did.
Yesterday was a wild day for the markets following last week's bear market plunge.
Fox Business Network's Madison Allworth has this story and more on Fox Means Business.
A volatile market session with wild swings. We ended the day with the Dow down about 1%, the S&P 500 down about 0.25%, and a glimpse of green coming from the NASDAQ, finishing in positive territory. This is a significant rebound for the tech-heavy index after plunging into bear market territory at the end of last week. Meanwhile, the automotive industry may be heading towards a head-on collision. A Detroit advisory firm forecasts U.S. and Canada auto sales could decline by 1.8 million vehicles this year. The firm warns sales could stagnate for the next decade if tariffs stay in place. The CEO of Spirit Airlines is making his final departure, no boarding pass required. The airline announcing that Ted Christie is stepping down as company head, just weeks after the airline exited from bankruptcy. The move comes as the historically budget-friendly airline seeks to transform into a premium option for consumers in a bid to increase margins. And the new Minecraft movie has already built its way past box office expectations. Industry analysts had predicted the film would gross $100 million on its opening weekend. Instead, a Minecraft movie earned $157 million at the box office, making it the largest ever opening weekend for a video game movie. A Minecraft movie joins other video game movies like the Super Mario Bros. Movie and Sonic the Hedgehog that have all performed strongly at the box office. That's a look at business. I'm Madison Allworth.
That movie has quite the buzz. I know Snow White came out and didn't really do so well. This one seems like it's knocking it out of the park.
No, I've heard a lot about the Minecraft movie from kids and adults alike.
Yeah, interesting.
Yep. All right, the time now is 8:25.
Let's get a full look at that weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much on this Tuesday. Winter weather advisories posted until 4 a.m. Wednesday. In fact, they've been expanded further down to the south for measurable snowfall that will be on the way. Wind advisories also up until midnight tonight, further off towards the south and west. We have gale warnings along the coast, along with a few small craft advisories too. Wave heights for what's being reported right now, 4 feet according to this buoy. And from the looks of things, not many buoys reporting right now, but we can definitely tell based off of the contours that wave heights are still rather high across parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Let's talk about on land. Snow starting to build in slowly but surely. Not a whole lot going on just yet, but we're seeing the clouds push in, and we'll see more active weather moving forward throughout the daytime period today. Let's zoom things out along the coast. We have showers and thunderstorms over parts of the ocean. Again, the snowfall will start to build in moving forward, especially with this area low pressure that will be pushing off towards the east. So we are going to be watching the snowfall moving in courtesy of the system, possibly mixing with a little bit of rain as temperatures rise today. But as temperatures fall later on, we'll switch back to snowfall. The snow continuing into early Wednesday morning before backing off throughout the daytime period on Wednesday. In fact, we'll get some sunshine going by Wednesday afternoon into parts of Wednesday evening before the sun begins to set. As for snowfall, some spots could see around 3 to 5 inches from Bangor down toward parts of Washington County, and maybe around 4 to 8 inches of snow further off towards the north and also to the northwest. Gusty winds may be up to 15 miles per hour today, otherwise sustained winds at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. We could reach up to around 20 to maybe 30 miles per hour later on tonight, and then even through tomorrow, some gusty winds could reach up to about 30 miles per hour at times. Our average high temperature is 50 degrees. We'll be below that today in the upper 30s, with lower 40s Wednesday, upper 40s Thursday, lower 50s Friday. We're back in the 40s Saturday and a Sunday, and then 50s returned again as we head towards your Monday. For today, upper 30s, rain and snow on the way, and that east wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Some higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Tonight, lower 20s, mostly cloudy, some snow showers still, and that northwest wind at around 25 miles per hour or so. Tomorrow, lower 40s, some morning snow flurries, otherwise partly cloudy. Northwest wind getting up to around 30 miles per hour. And let's check out your extended forecast. Increasing clouds again for your Thursday with highs in the upper 40s. More rain showers on the way for your Friday with highs in the low 50s, then upper 40s for your Saturday, another chance for rain.
For the best LiftMaster openers at real prices, call PDQ Door first. Hi, I'm Dave from PDQ Door. For emergency service, routine maintenance, and tune-ups, make PDQ Door your first call. Learn more at pdqdoor.com, where we sell the best and service the rest.
It's markdown mania at the Furniture Gallery, and the deals are madness. Relax in this cozy recliner. Choose tan, gray, or brown for only $2.98. Grab a sofa chaise for just $5.98. Upgrade your living room with a sofa and love seat set, now just $7.98. Scott Living mattresses are now priced king size for a queen price. Plus, save up to 70% on in-stock clearance items. Hurry into the Furniture Gallery, shop our main family-owned business, and save money. The Furniture Gallery.
TurboTax Free Edition. 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition.
Need struts? RockAuto.com has budget, standard, and premium options. Wiper blades, frame, beam, or winter. Click the info button for features and benefits.
All the parts your car will ever need, Rock Auto.
Are your gutters weighed down by debris causing them to sag and overflow? I'm Tony Hafford with TC Hafford Basement Systems. Clogged gutters lead to costly repairs for your home, so skip the cleaning and stop the clogs with Gutter Shutter. Gutter Shutter, the world's best gutter, is a high-performance gutter with a lifetime no-clog guarantee. Stop the clutter, get Gutter Shutter. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basementy.
Hi, I'm Dave from PDQ Door. For over 30 years, we've been delivering top-notch service to the state of Maine. We're proud to be your trusted and first choice for garage door repair and LiftMaster openings. Visit us online at pdqdoor.com, where we sell the best and service the rest.
President Trump saying he is not pausing his trade war. The stock market on a roller coaster yesterday, the biggest one-point swing ever, as Americans remain worried about their 401ks. Trump is now threatening China with more tariffs. ABC's Perry Russum is in Washington.
This morning, President Trump showing no signs of pausing his trade war.
We have an opportunity to change the fabric of our country. We have an opportunity to reset the table on trade.
Trump now threatening even more tariffs against China. After hitting the country with a 34% tariff, China retaliating with 34% tariffs. Trump giving China a deadline of today, saying if China does not withdraw its 34% tariffs, the U.S. will increase tariffs on China by another 50%, bringing the tariffs on China effectively to more than 100%.
We've always had the government as the safety net for the markets, and that's gone today because the government is the cause of this crisis.
The Dow on a roller coaster yesterday, spiking in the morning after a false post on social media about Trump putting a temporary pause on the tariffs, then dropping after the White House said that post was not true. Americans worried about their 401ks.
There's nothing I can do. I'm just watching it crash.
JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon warning in a letter to shareholders the recent tariffs will likely increase inflation and are causing many to consider a greater probability of a recession.
There's two places you feel inflation in real time. It's gasoline because they put the signs up every day, so you see what the price per gallon is. And the other is grocery store.
Some Senate Republicans are looking to join Democrats to rein in Trump's tariff power. 7 Republicans now supporting a bipartisan bill that would require Trump to notify Congress of new tariffs, and Congress would have to approve them within 60 days. Majority Leader John Thune says he does not think the bill has a future, saying Trump has indicated he would veto it. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
As we heard, China responds to threats of higher tariffs from the U.S. The Chinese Commerce Ministry saying the country will, quote, fight to the end if President Donald Trump goes through with plans to add 50% tariffs on Chinese imports. China says the U.S. has no grounds to keep increasing prices on products from its country. President Trump threatened to increase tariffs on Monday following a retaliatory 34% increase on tariffs for U.S. products to China last week.
The Supreme Court lifting an order on Monday that blocks deportations under a wartime law. The court allowing the Trump administration to use an 18th century wartime law to deport Venezuelan migrants, but also saying that they need to get a court hearing before they're taken from the U.S. The court adding that the administration needs to give Venezuelans who are accused gang members, quote, reasonable time to go to court. The decision seemingly barring the Trump administration from immediately resuming flights, which last month took hundreds of migrants to an El Salvadorian prison. The flights came after President Trump used the Alien Enemies Act for the first time since World War II to justify the deportations, after he proclaimed the Tren de Aragua gang as an invading force. And coming up on the second half of the newscast, in what will be its 8th sequel, the latest Mission Impossible movie has a release date.
That and more in show business coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Fires, floods, burst pipes. Disasters happen, but the mess they leave behind doesn't have to last. For 40 years, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration has been there to help Mainers get back to the closest to normal as they can. When your property is at its worst, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration is at their best, and they have been for 4 decades. Put your trust in the Bouchard team. Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration. You keep the memories, we'll handle the rest.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. It is also National Empanada Day.
We've had a lot of national food days today, but you know, if you've never tried empanadas, there's a good chance maybe you've had one of their distant cousins, like Polish pierogies or Japanese gyoza. Originally from Spain, empanadas now exist in over 30 countries in some shape or form. These are Spanish or Latin American pastry turnovers with a variety of savory ingredients, which are baked or deep fried.
Sounds yummy to me.
I know, I like a holiday, a food holiday.
Yeah, sounds good to me. All right, on this day in history, back in 1766, the first fire escape was patented. At the time, just being a wicker basket on a pulley and a chain. Probably good for DoorDash, too. Just
Yeah,
pull
right?
Up your DoorDash.
Well, I thought it was funny
Yeah.
that they patented it. It's like, well, you could have just done that.
It's a wicker basket.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right, in 1913, the 17th Amendment, which calls for the direct election of U.S. senators by voters of the states, was ratified.
Pretty big change right there.
Yeah. In 1920, the Venus de Milo, the ancient statue commonly thought to represent Aphrodite, was found in pieces on the Aegean island of Milos. It was later reconstructed and is on display at the Louvre in Paris. In 1893, the Critic publication reported that ice cream soda is America's national drink.
In 1943, President Franklin Roosevelt, in an attempt to check inflation, froze wages and prices, prohibited workers from changing jobs unless the war effort would be aided thereby the change, and barred rate increases to common carriers and public utilities. And in 1990, Twin Peaks, created by David Lynch and starring Kyle MacLachlan, premiered on ABC. And in 2022, the U.S. Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences banned Will Smith from attending the Oscars for 10 years after he infamously slapped host Chris Rock on stage during the ceremony that year. And on this day last year was the solar eclipse from Mexico to Newfoundland that plunged 44 million people into darkness.
That was a year ago today.
I know.
Boy,
Doesn't that seem crazy?
Yeah, it was a beautiful day that day, too.
I know. It's chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos.
So interesting.
Yeah.
All right, for birthdays today, we have actor Dean Norris, who is 62 today. Actress Katie Sackhoff is 45. And actress Robin Wright is 59 today. She used to be known as Robin Wright Penn, but now it's just back to Robin Wright.
Yeah, people would know her especially as Jenny in Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
But in all sorts of stuff as well.
Yeah, Princess Buttercup.
Right.
Yeah, she'll always be Princess Buttercup.
I forgot about that one from The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
I love that film. I'm glad you reminded me of that one. All right, now it looks like it would be a good day for a movie.
Perfect day for a movie.
You know, you want to stay off those roads, but either way, not too much snow here in the Bangor area.
Yeah, others could get several inches the further north you go.
Yeah. Here's Devin Biggs with the forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Happy Tuesday. The winter weather advisories have been expanded further down toward the south, and they will last until 4 a.m. as we head towards your Wednesday for measurable snowfall that will be on the way. Wind advisories also posted until midnight later on tonight for the areas highlighted here, and gale warnings and small craft advisories posted along the coast. No precipitation, at least just yet, but it is starting to push in from the south and west, so we'll start to see this build in throughout the morning period today, lasting throughout the daytime period in the parts of tonight, but backing off throughout the morning period tomorrow. Let's zoom things out. We have some precipitation off the coast. Now we have more precipitation well off to the well off toward the west, excuse me, and we'll be watching for more of this to build in throughout the daytime period today. But Futurecast showing that snowfall moving in, possibly mixing with some rain at times. Again, the soak continues overnight, but backing off by early Wednesday morning. Gusty winds will be a thing at times today, maybe up to 15 miles per hour. Otherwise, 5 to 10 mile per hour sustained winds. The winds increase to 20 miles per hour tonight and maybe getting close to 30 miles per hour for the daytime period tomorrow. Otherwise, moving forward today, your hourly forecast for the morning and afternoon period showing that snow passing through with temperatures reaching for the 30s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma?
Thank you, Devin. And for the latest on what's happening in Hollywood,
here's ABC's Melissa Adon.
I've appointed you sole heir to my estate, which you may come into sooner rather than later.
Wes Anderson is back. The first trailer is out for his upcoming espionage film called The Phoenician Scheme. It follows a father-daughter duo played by Benicio del Toro and Mia Threepleton. The rest of the star-studded cast includes Tom Hanks, Scarlett Johansson, Bryan Cranston, and Michael Cera. Look for it in theaters May 30th.
If we want to bring the world back from the brink, we have to deal with him.
Your mission, should you choose to accept, is to check out the new Mission Impossible trailer. Final Reckoning is the 8th installment in the action franchise, which has become known for death-defying stunts. The movie picks up where Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning left off in 2023 and has star Tom Cruise facing his most impossible mission yet. Final Reckoning hits theaters May 23rd.
At the end of the week, you will be an entirely different person.
Sunday's season finale of The White Lotus broke records for the HBO drama. Episode 8 of season 3 drew in 6.2 million viewers, a 30% jump over the previous series record, which was just set by last week's episode. The rock world is mourning the death of Clem Burke, the drummer for Blondie, who passed away from a battle with cancer. He was named one of the greatest drummers of all time by Rolling Stone. Burke was 70. And happy birthday to Ezra Koenig. The Vampire Weekend frontman turns 41 today. And that's what's happening in Hollywood. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
All right, right after the break, Tyler Cruz will have our sports updates.
Don't go away.
Your favorite restaurants were half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Located on Wilson Street in Brewer, Yoshi Japanese Restaurant, where you'll find only the best sushi, Asian favorites, and specialty crafted cocktails that will satisfy anyone. Try tatami seating for an immersive experience. Yoshi Japanese Restaurant, bringing delicious traditions to you.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
Make Easter moments magical with the Gold Bunny from Lindt.
R&K Variety is more than just a convenience store. With delicious homemade food made fresh daily, we offer hearty meals that don't break the bank. Whether it be our delicious chicken pot pie, one of our many savory soups, or a pizza, you can't go wrong at R&K Variety. Looking for a drink after a long workday? R&K Variety is an agency liquor store with an impressive selection. R&K Variety, more than just a convenience store. We're your neighbor, chef, barista, and friend. Stop by today.
Hank's Husqvarna is your trusted full-line Husqvarna dealer, offering you everything you need for your outdoor projects. From high-performance lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers to chainsaws, trimmers, battery-powered and powerful snowblowers, we have just what you need. Every piece of equipment is fully set up, serviced, and ready for use by our certified Husqvarna technician. And all sales are backed by our in-house Husqvarna warranty. For parts, service, or new equipment sales, make your way to Hank's Husqvarna in Carmel or Newport.
Stop waiting for online orders. Rock Auto Parts ship in a few hours, 24 hours a day. On the carrier you choose, with tracking at each step.
All the parts your car will ever need, Rock Auto.
The Birmingham Stallions kick off their home opener against the Arlington Renegades. Fox UFL Friday at 8 Eastern.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us after Duke's tough loss on Saturday to the Houston Cougars, the first in what could be the only season of watching Cooper Flagg play college basketball has come to a close. The Blue Devils led for most of the game in the Final Four up until the last minute when Houston staged one of the greatest comebacks in Final Four history, erasing a double-digit lead late in the game and then a 6-point lead with under a minute remaining, just over 30 seconds actually. Flagg was terrific in the game. He was then called for a very controversial foul on a late free throw attempt right here, setting Houston up with the game-winning foul shots that they would hit afterwards. An emotional Cooper saying it's not the way they wanted to end it, but what a terrific season it was.
I mean, it was an incredible season. Incredible people, incredible relationships that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but still an incredible year.
Flagging the loss led all scorers with 27 points to go along with 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks. On Sunday, he was named the Naismith National Player of the Year. Add that to the list with the Wooden Award and the AP National Player of the Year and the Oscar Robertson Award, and so on and so forth. We will await his decision on next season, but all signs point to the NBA draft later this summer. Let's stay on the basketball court now. It's been just about a month since the 2025 MPA high school basketball tournament wrapped, and recently the MPA's biannual reclassification plan being approved for next season. There are some pretty big changes. Gone is Class AA. Instead, Class A holds the schools with the highest enrollment, taking in everyone with over 670 students. Brewer, Skowhegan, Messalonsky, and Hamden Academy all remain Class A schools. They get paired up with a few of those AA programs like Bangor, Edward Little. Nokomis, Gardner, and Coney and Lawrence all move down an enrollment class into Class B to join the likes of Ellsworth and Old Town and John Bapst. The 2 Class B reigning state champions, they will be competing in Class C this year. The Caribou Vikings boys and girls. Also moving down with them are the Foxcroft and Bucksport boys, as well as Orono. The Class D schools with 100 kids through 224 enrollment, meaning reigning Class C state champ Penobscot Valley will now be a D school. The reigning D North boys champs from Skank, they stay put, as does Bangor Christian. And the new class being introduced will be called Class S. It's a sub-100 enrollment school with 10 teams in the North region. I caught up with Lucas McNelly from Maine Basketball Rankings earlier on Monday, who says reclassifying is never easy, but the MPA did a pretty good job.
And there's really no perfect way to do it because someone's got to be the smallest team in the region. And I think they did a pretty good job with this and are really looking at the criticisms of previous years and going, okay, what here can we improve?
The 2 main problems the MPA tried to address were the dwindling number of Class AA schools. AA North boys and girls both only had 7 teams total in the region, and they tried to even the playing ground of some of those small school Class D teams. And McNelly says that under 100 class did just that.
This under 100 really will help some D schools become viable and at least feel like they have a chance to compete. That's why we kept seeing all these blowouts in D where people on Facebook were losing their minds. Oh my gosh, 112, 15, what's going on? Well, they're not supposed to be playing each other is what's happening. So we hopefully fix some of that.
All right, looks like it should make for an interesting season. Let's stay with some high school sports now. One of the best sporting events in Maine in the summer is back again this July for the 2025 Maine Shrine Lobster Bowl Classic. The Lobster Bowl is July 19th this year. Kickoff at 4 p.m. Gates open at 1 in Lewiston, again at Don Rue Field. The final rosters for the East and West squads and cheerleaders have been announced. You can find them all at that link on your screen. For the East, Herman head coach Kyle Gallant will lead those seniors to battle against the West, led by Aaron Filio out of South Portland High. The organization and participants, they've set their fundraising goal to $150,000 this year, up from $102,000 raised a year ago. Man, it would be awesome if they hit that. Let's go to the baseball diamond now. 2 of Maine's best Division III collegiate programs going at it Monday at the home of the Bowdoin Polar Bears. The Husson Eagles taking a trip south for a quick 9 innings before Tuesday's snow, rain, what have you. Eagles looking for 5 straight wins, 1-1 in the third. Bangor's Matt Holmes up with 2 runners in scoring position. He rips one into right. That's an RBI single. 2 runs come around. 3-1 Eagles. Same score, same situation. Holmes with a man in scoring position. He beats the shift, and then Akira Warren comes in from second. He slides in and beats a good throw. That makes it 4-1 Eagles. Guess who now? Later on with Warren on second. Holmes with an inside-out swing goes the opposite way. That's a seeing eye single, and Warren hustles all the way around to score again. Husson goes on to win. 6-1 is the final, and that is the Eagles' 5th straight victory. That is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
At Old Town Redemption Center, we are always ready to help with any fundraisers or bottle drives. We are here to help our community. Like and follow us on Facebook for upcoming weekly holiday giveaways and our monthly $100 drawing.
The Lucerne Inn and Ryan's Pub is world-renowned for beautiful dining with a delicious view. Come and enjoy the experience of their all-you-can-eat seafood dinner every Friday night, now through April, with award-winning seafood dishes and discounts for seniors and veterans. Call to make your reservation or order for takeout. Treat your taste buds with the flavors of the sea during Seafood Fridays, only at the Lucerne Inn. Beautiful dining with a delicious view.
Onboard Wi-Fi that goes wherever you go. How it should be. The Hyundai Elantra.
Lease a Hyundai Elantra for $169 a month for 24 months, or get 3.99% APR for 72 months today.
25 words or less.
Do you have an inner voice that you channel?
Yes, there is my inner white girl, Olivia, who loves you so much, Marianne. And then there's my inner black girl, Olandra.
How does she feel about me?
You doing what you can.
Where celebrities come to play.
I, Tarzan, you,
Jane.
Boom!
You said that like you've said that before.
Look, what my wife and I do is our business.
Every weekday.
Weekdays at 9 on Fox 22.
At Old Town Redemption Center, we are always ready to help with any fundraisers or bottle drives. We are here to help our community. Like and follow us on Facebook for upcoming weekly holiday giveaways and our monthly $100 drawing.
Dire wolves played a terrifyingly major role in HBO's Game of Thrones. In real life, they've been extinct for 13,000 years. 13,000 years, more than 9,000 years before the pyramids were built.
Now, scientists are claiming to have brought them back to life, prompting many critics to say, what could possibly go wrong?
No problem.
No problem. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
It's a howl 13,000 years in the making. Dire wolves walking the earth for the first time since the Stone Age, thanks to a remarkable scientific breakthrough.
The dire wolf is the first de-extinct species.
Until recently, the only way to catch a glimpse of the bygone beast was to watch Game of Thrones.
The dire wolf is a sigil of your house. You were meant to have them.
But now, Texas-based Colossal Biosciences has recreated the canines by implanting fossilized genes into the gray wolf.
We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves, and we've edited those cells at multiple places in its DNA sequence to contain the dire wolf version of the DNA.
Colossal giving ABC News an exclusive glimpse inside their lab.
That animal looks like a dire wolf, it will behave like a dire wolf, and it is a dire wolf.
But as dire pups Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi grow, so does the controversy surrounding their existence.
Ecosystems are very delicately balanced, and nature is far more complicated than our ability as humans to understand it or to understand all the possible unforeseen consequences.
Some critics claim these new wolves aren't actually dire wolves, since they share so much of their DNA with their modern-day counterparts, while others are concerned that de-extinction efforts could have unforeseen or even deadly consequences.
The bottom line is a lot of the genome we still do not understand, and so one wants to be careful if you're mucking around with genes that there may be things we don't understand. You may produce a wolf that's twice as ferocious.
Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
And the dire wolf may be the first animal brought back from extinction, but the lab doesn't plan to stop there. Colossal hopes to bring back the woolly mammoth are up next. And you know they're going to try dinosaurs at some point.
Yeah.
And we know what happens then. We've seen Jurassic Park.
I know.
You know.
Yeah, well, humans have always created things and destroyed things, and we've never really known the impact of it until years later.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I find it fascinating, but I don't know if I want to run into a dire wolf or a Tyrannosaurus out at Baxter Park or anything like that.
Well, they look pretty cute. Those
They
little
are.
white puppies.
The puppies are
They're
cute.
Little fluffy guys.
Yeah.
These cute puppies.
All right.
Okay, let's get a look at that forecast with Devin Biggs.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much on this Tuesday. Winter weather advisories posted until 4 a.m. Wednesday. In fact, they've been expanded further down to the south for measurable snowfall that will be on the way. Wind advisories also up until midnight tonight, further off towards the south and west. We have gale warnings along the coast, along with a few small craft advisories too. Wave heights for what's being reported right now, 4 feet according to this buoy. And from the looks of things, not many buoys reporting right now, but we can definitely tell based off of the contours that wave heights are still rather high across parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Let's talk about on land. Snow starting to build in slowly but surely. Not a whole lot going on just yet, but we're seeing the clouds push in, and we'll see more active weather moving forward throughout the daytime period today. Let's zoom things out along the coast. We have showers and thunderstorms over parts of the ocean. Again, the snowfall will start to build in moving forward, especially with this area low pressure that will be pushing off towards the east. So we are going to be watching the snowfall moving in courtesy of the system, possibly mixing with a little bit of rain as temperatures rise today. But as temperatures fall later on, we'll switch back to snowfall. The snow continuing into early Wednesday morning before backing off throughout the daytime period on Wednesday. In fact, we'll get some sunshine going by Wednesday afternoon into parts of Wednesday evening before the sun begins to set. As for snowfall, some spots could see around 3 to 5 inches from Bangor down toward parts of Washington County, and maybe around 4 to 8 inches of snow further off towards the north and also to the northwest. Gusty winds may be up to 15 miles per hour today, otherwise sustained winds at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. We could reach up to around 20 to maybe 30 miles per hour later on tonight, and then even through tomorrow, some gusty winds could reach up to about 30 miles per hour at times. Our average high temperature is 50 degrees. We'll be below that today in the upper 30s, with lower 40s Wednesday, upper 40s Thursday, lower 50s Friday. We're back in the 40s Saturday and Sunday, and then 50s return again as we head towards your Monday. For today, upper 30s, rain and snow on the way, and that east wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Some higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Tonight, lower 20s, mostly cloudy, some snow showers still, and that northwest wind at around 25 miles per hour or so. Tomorrow, lower 40s, some morning snow flurries, otherwise partly cloudy. Northwest wind getting up to around 30 miles per hour. And let's check out your extended forecast. Increasing clouds again for your Thursday with highs in the upper 40s. More rain showers on the way for your Friday with highs in the low 50s, then upper 40s for your Saturday. Another chance for rain.
Up and Spoke Fireworks is family owned with a huge selection including Brothers and Showtime, Time Bandit, and Black Hat brands. We will share our knowledge with you, then go have a blast. Up and Spoke Fireworks, 173 West Main Street, Searsport.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert, doing everything while you do your thing. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Your local financial partner has a new name, the County Federal Credit Union. And we're inspired by the people we serve, the big dreamers and smart planners, the risk takers and trailblazers. As a lifelong partner offering powerful tools and personal service, we were built for our members. Start a financial relationship that's driven by community and inspired by you. Visit countyfcu.org.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brew.
today, so if you missed anything, you can head to foxbangor.com.
I was blabbering too much about dire wolves and things like that.
Yeah, they're cute puppies.
So many things to talk about.
I know.
All right, we thank you for joining us. Be safe out there on the roads today. It's going to start this morning, sometime later on this morning, and then pick up as the day rolls along. Could get quite messy by mid-afternoon.
Definitely.
So it's just the kind of spring we're having so far.
I know. I hope it's the last one.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a great day.
Today on 25 Words or Less, she anchored the What's Poppin' section on Morning